Joining me now is Dr. Andrew Snyder. He's a drug researcher and developer and scientist. And for full disclosure, he's also my brother. Dr. Snyder, Andy, good to see you this morning.
Nice to be back with you, Jeff.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure talking with you. Um, Before we get into artificial intelligence and the drug development process, I want to check in on the investment and innovation. How's that going? Are you seeing from your relationships in the field, are you seeing more investment now than versus last time you were on the program?
Maybe incrementally. I think there are some small cracks. We last time we spoke about IPO windows, maybe that's
Mhm.
cracking open a little bit. There's certainly a lot of big news on the M&A front, and all of that will trickle down into the innovation landscape. And so I think we are seeing, positive signs in our environment.
That's great. That's great news. I think it's great for patients. It's great for all of us because we need these innovations to continue to live at longer and happier and healthier lives. All right, Andy, let's talk first about the traditional drug development process. It takes a long time. Can you just give us the broad brushstrokes of what that looks like from start to finish?
Yeah, that's a fantastic place to start, Jeff. So, my experience is generally on the novel side, right? So, new targets, maybe an existing modality, but something new. And you're going to just say, these are rough numbers, but this is going to give you a time scale here. You're going to say it costs $2 billion to bring a drug to market. And you're going to say that it takes 10 to 15 years.
Mhm.
Okay. And so, these are the costs associated with bringing a new modality forward, right? And so there's lots of bottlenecks along the way. One brute is taking a novel academic target and understanding if it is a good target or not, screening that target for maybe a small molecule that modulates it, and then developing that further preclinically to work in animal models. And then, that's the preclinical phase, and that's where I spend all of my time. But that's really where the minority of the investment takes place. It's then when you enter the clinic where you have high value, high dollar studies in patients, sometimes for the first time with a new modality or with a new target.
So those what I guess we would refer to as clinical trials. You're trying out the drug to see, it's a process, and you're trying it out to ensure that it actually works and does what it needs to do, and if there are changes along the way. Now let's talk about artificial intelligence because you don't read the same things I do, but you see the news reports. AI has just been infused everywhere, from manufacturing to financial services. A lot of people use Chat GPT. We don't on this network. But how can artificial intelligence help eliminate some of those bottlenecks you were talking about? And maybe could it actually help speed up this 10 to 15-year process you were talking about?
Jeff, that is the hope. And so we're seeing AI permeate all phases of the drug discovery process. And so let me give you some like pointed examples about
Hmm.
what I'm seeing as I read the news, as I talk to people in my field, as I kind of look to the future. I think, let's first talk at the discovery side. Okay, so there are tools called AlphaFold, which help you predict protein structure. And what this might have the effect of doing is give chemists and other drug developers a better and faster chance at finding the right molecule now that they're able to have a 3D structure in hand. Similarly, there are even just these monumental approaches to have autonomous laboratories that are not only working on their own, moving plates around the lab, but they're quote unquote thinking on their own and testing their own hypotheses, right? And so there's companies like Lila Biosciences here in the Boston area that are really pioneering this approach. I think I was just looking, they call it laboratory superintelligence. And they're really trying to spur on innovation. And just let me give you a third example what's happening on the really early target side. There's a company called Tahoe out in California, which is working on these single cell perturbation data sets. So they're treating cells and they're trying to understand the interactions between different molecules and different proteins. And they end up making a lot of this data publicly available, but they're also using it to make key insights into drug targets, right? So they're trying to find connections between the data that will maybe give a better target than they would ordinarily have found.
So, you have typically done, I would say, I'm going to call it the trench work, this testing.
Yeah.
Does the future Dr. Andrew Snyder, are you part data scientist, part researcher? So you're actually shifting, someone in your field is actually kind of embracing this technology and shifting forward their approach, because I would imagine with these data sets and this new technology, maybe you don't have to do some of the same tactics. Maybe you adjust your tactics. Again, I'm a layperson here, but what I'm thinking about is, what does the future research scientist, someone
Yep.
like yourself, look like? How do you evolve into that next using this technology?
Well, look, I think some of this is kind of TBD. Let's see some of this play out. I have
Mhm.
people on the chemistry side tell me that some of this needs to be empirically determined, right? The kind of way that we do things might continue to be the way that we do things, but there are other data sets that can certainly be leveraged. And I think it's understanding where those bottlenecks are and where we put those tools into place, right? Especially companies, like large pharma companies that have massive, massive both preclinical and clinical data sets. AI is going to be really key. How can we mine that data to make connections that would have taken us forever to make, or maybe we didn't see them? And so whereas, I don't know that I would be the data scientist, but I think it's got to be on everyone's radar as we move forward through all of these different drug discovery and development processes.
Yeah, at least connected to your hip,
Mhm.
so to speak, so that you're kind of, I kind of liken it to, we're both Orioles fans, unfortunately, in some regard. The sports now, they have a lot of statistical people that work directly with the
Yeah.
coaches. Maybe it's kind of that analogy. And then I guess my last question, and we'll bring you back next month, of course. Um, I want to talk about the regulatory process, because if you're using artificial intelligence, I would imagine that the Food and Drug Administration, other regulatory entities, uh, we need to take into account that some of these data models are being used in order to create new drugs. I mean, I think that kind of changes the traditional um, approach to the regulatory environment.
Well, I don't know. They're still going to require the same data packages. The drug has to be safe and it has to be efficacious for it to get approved. And of course, there are certain situations with high amounts of unmet need where there are accelerated approvals, et cetera, based on historical data sets. But I think the data package is going to remain the same. I just think it's a case where we have the opportunity to accelerate drug discovery and development. Jeff, there's one other place. I was reading somewhere, and I don't want to, sidetrack the conversation. Something like 10% of phase one assets end up going to approval. And so 90% of them don't for a variety of reasons. But if we can use AI, and this is being done, throughout the ecosystem, to target the right modality at the right time to the right patients, maybe we draw back some of those failures, right? And maybe we can target these therapies to the right people. And so, we're seeing this throughout the entire life cycle here, from beginning to end. I think, we'll see what the future holds, but there's a lot of promise that it can impact multiple steps of the drug discovery process.
Yeah, we didn't even get into the experience versus non-experience. I mean, you have decades of experience of building drugs and processes. That's important to partner with the data scientists, with the data sets that AI is looking at. Dr. Snyder, Andy, we're going to have to leave it there. It's always great to see it. I
Yeah.
wish I could see you in person a little bit more. Maybe we'll see each other very soon. But we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thanks, Jeff.
Well, thanks for watching. And don't forget, we're back again tomorrow morning with another great expert and another great topic. You can tune in right here Monday through Sunday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern Time. And don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse, for all the news in one place, delivered directly to your email box. Check it out at our website.